All right, so you wanna try that chorus?
Well, I got friends in low places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases my blues away. And I'll be okay. Yeah, I'm not big on social graces, so I'll slip on down to the oasis. So I got friends,
These two,
in low places. Shout out to Garth. Woo! Welcome to the Maven Show.
So I'm just curious, before we jump into all this, what do you, if you were going to guess what Garth Brooks' net worth is, what would you guess? Don't look, Josh.
I'm sorry, not trying to cheat here. Not trying to cheat.
No peeking.
Man.
What's a really high net worth?
Really
It really
depends on how he invested it, I'd say. 300 million?
That seems like a big number.
That's a big
300 million
That's a
is a big number.
He's got some big numbers.
150 million.
Josh was actually really close. It's 330 million, according to this Yahoo Finance article from 2019, beating out George Strait, Kenny Rogers, Kenny Chesney. Even one that really surprised me was
he's twice Reba McEntire.
Who's the guy that's on like The Voice?
Oh,
Blake Shelton.
Blake Shelton
Beat out Blake Shelton by a lot.
Blake
according to this
spent
article.
a lot of money, apparently. 60 million.
He's also gotten divorced. I think may have gotten divorced more times than Garth Brooks
has. One of the
has.
most expensive things you'll ever do. But
you know, here's what blew my mind even more than that. There were 3 artists that were country music artists that are worth more than Garth, which after watching this documentary is really surprising.
Who?
And this really blew my mind. The next one up is Toby Keith.
Yeah.
Which makes sense with who he signed.
As a manager in IP business, yeah, that makes sense.
And then Shania Twain.
Mm-hmm.
And above her, Dolly Parton. Dolly.
Now this is net worth?
Net worth.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Dolly's had more time, though.
A few more. More time and more plastic surgery.
Hey, she is, she's amazing, though. So what's that place in Branson? Dixie Stampede? Did they change the name of that?
If they haven't, then surely soon.
Welcome to the Maven Show. I'm Aaron Hoffman. With me, Josh Malone, Jeremy Brown.
Woohoo!
So we're, hope everybody's doing really well. What's new with you guys? I'm basically getting no sleep over at my house. Girl number 4. She's been fantastic.
Baby.
I was bedridden with a migraine all day yesterday. So
yeah, I'm
that's the latest.
Mostly adjusting my schedule to your crazy household, basically.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. I have no control over any of it. So if that makes you feel any better, no,
I feel great about that.
We're all along for the ride.
I'm glad to hear someone else is sleeping
little.
So
much for personal responsibility, Aaron.
I think at this point I've got to take like one of the sleep apnea tests to see if I'm actually resting while I'm sleeping or what's going on with my sleep patterns, because it's a disaster.
Yeah.
Let me give you a pro tip. I tried one of those mouthpieces. It hurts.
What are these things?
Work. Have you seen? I get advertised these all the time. It's like a mouthpiece. Like you put it, like you mold it to your mouth, and like brings your jaw forward. And like I got one that has like a tongue suppressor on it. Just made my mouth hurt a lot. My teeth hurt a lot.
But it didn't help at all.
No, I'm sending it back and getting the money back. So.
Was this recent?
Hold on, a mouthpiece?
It sounds like it was recent.
It's a mouthpiece.
He's returning a mouthpiece.
That's what it sounds like.
Like I hope I don't get the Did they sanitize it and send it back out?
No. I mean, like when you get it, it's like a mouth guard that you'd get at like a sporting goods store, except it's meant to make your mouth go forward. Yeah, my experience. A lot of people review them and say they're really good. Mine was just a lot of pain.
Well, we'll see. Maybe they'll hook me up.
But you could try it though. Money back guarantee. So
no, like sleep quality is a huge deal. I actually use a like sleep tracker app. I don't know if you've ever tried anything like that. It's like it judges based on your breathing or movement, like how deeply
it's like sleep
you're
cycle
sleeping.
or something like that.
Yeah, that's the one. And the biggest thing for me is whenever I don't have a consistent bedtime, and especially like a wake time, if I'm changing that all the time, it gets back really fast.
I have no idea how to set up anything consistent.
How?
Right, yeah, especially with a new baby.
I have
Like
no
it's
idea.
one of the worst.
I
Yeah.
have no
So
idea.
you're like just not sleeping good because like you snore or does
I'm
Mackenzie
sure that's
like
some of it?
does
I'm
Mackenzie hear you
certain
stop
that is.
breathing and stuff or?
I don't know if she's ever mentioned that, but
I know there's like sleep apnea is like a big like there's a big.
I don't
deal.
even understand how a person's diagnosed with it. So I
don't know.
I'm pretty dumb on the whole thing. So we'll see if that's actually part of what's impacting my energy level. So
You go on those CPAP apps.
maybe
There you go.
apparently those work. Pretty well.
Apparatus.
I don't know how somebody sleeps. I mean, I don't know.
That's the thing I've heard that's
typically-
hard about them.
Yeah, I don't know how
Having
somebody
something on your
can get
face.
comfortable that way.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? You know who probably doesn't have any problems with energy? Garth Brooks, which is a great segue.
Oh my gosh.
It's a great segue to our focus today. The legend himself, Garth Brooks. The reason we wanted to talk about a few things regarding Garth Brooks, there was a recent biography that came out. It's on Netflix now. The Road I'm On is the name of it. It's a 2-part series. It's total about 3 hours. So.
Oh yeah, and it's great for education if you're someone like me who has grown up in Oklahoma and knows basically nothing about Garth Brooks.
That's one of
Which
the
doesn't make any
craziest things.
sense.
Yeah.
It
has to be the homeschool thing.
That was homeschooled, a bit sheltered environment there. You know, we didn't listen to a whole lot of like top tens. We were more, Stephen Curtis Chapman, Steve Green, Phillips Craig and Dean type people growing up.
Who and who? No, I know Green, but
so yeah,
Keith Green is it
Steve Green?
Oh, Steve,
Keith
I have
Green
no
would have
idea.
been killer. No, I love
no
Keith
idea
Green.
who Steve is.
Steve Green.
No, Steve Green was more like an early '90s kind of Christian,
I'm ignorant on that one.
contemporary Christian
I'm ignorant on that
music
one.
artist. Yeah.
Well,
So you learn a lot really fast in 2 episodes about how intense.
listen,
Garth
that dude is the
Brooks
furthest thing from boring. I mean,
my
he
gosh.
is just like
Oh yeah.
a performer.
Ball of energy.
This is something we talked about a little bit prepping for this, but it was just it's like everything that he's saying, everything he's doing is about performing.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the way that he responds to questions he's asked in the documentary, everything is, I mean, within the first 10 minutes, there's that's an incredible quote. It's like he's reading from a script that is, how do I make this sound exceptionally profound?
Oh yeah.
Like for him,
It
he
really
talks really
sucked
slow.
me into being interested as much as I was.
And he almost
that
whispers like this.
He gets really dramatic. He gets really dramatic.
Guy from the Parks Department hands me a piece of paper. And I look at it. And he says, that was the count 90 minutes ago. I look at it and go, are you telling me there's 850,000 people out there? He goes, no. I'm telling you there's 850,000 people out there 90 minutes ago.
gets a glint in his eye.
But what's more Oklahoma than country music, and how much bigger does it get as far as country music than a dude like Garth Brooks? I was looking at stats on this, and there was an article that was written by Business Insider earlier this year, and they go over like the number of the number of albums sold, and he was the second highest ever, just behind the Beatles.
Nice.
He had 156 million
Of
albums.
any artist ever.
So that's like Michael Jackson, Led Zeppelin, Elton John, Billy Joel, like you name it. Like
That's
higher.
incredible.
Which is crazy.
He had more than double the amount of albums sold that Elton John has. To give you like perspective on the
Right.
numbers,
Right.
because it's just like him and the Beatles and Elvis are these three that are just
You know
So
what's
far
mind blowing
above
about
everybody
that?
else, it seems.
Like the Beatles are like British wave, right? Like,
Oh, totally.
like 60s. Elton John, like way before Garth Brooks.
Oh, yeah.
Garth
so they
Garth
have
has
way
only
more
been-
time. He's still touring.
He's still touring, and he started making music when we were born. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like he signed his first deal like
Late
a month
80s.
before I was
It
born.
was late 80s is kind of
Yeah.
when he's really, really
And
got
he's
started,
beat.
so.
He'll beat the Beatles, short of, you know.
Yeah. Well, now that he's
Yeah,
doing this
anyways.
on his tour, I mean, the stadium tour and that sort of, which, by the way, anytime you're doing a stadium tour, it's not like a concert series or an arena thing.
Mhm.
When you do a stadium, you're basically signing up for like 75,000 plus tickets sold everywhere you go,
Right, like,
which
has
is
to be.
crazy.
Oh, yeah, like the commitment on that, yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, no, it was in the documentary. He was talking to the other musicians who were playing with him, and he was like, "Well, we've all played honky tonks, and we've all played, arenas or whatever
yeah.
and the jump from honky tonk to arena, it's the same. Now we have to relearn everything and play stadiums, and it's like, okay,
And you see Garth like trying to coach people through that, and
Oh,
he's
yeah.
basically just like everything has to be more dramatic and bigger, and
Oh, yeah.
he's describing it. But it was like, before we get too much into that, okay, before we get too much into the actual biography itself, when you guys, when you think of Garth Brooks, you basically grew up nothing, drawing a blank,
like the clothes. That's that.
dressing in
Yeah.
Western apparel.
Well, specifically early '90s Western apparel, like with the bright colors and the two-tone whatever shirts and yeah. I mean,
checkerboard looking shirt.
oh gosh, like that was some. I don't
Beautiful.
know how any
I call it
fashion
beautiful.
designers-
That was.
I don't know how any fashion designer successfully got people to wear that crap. Like,
Hey, listen, it was, I never got into it necessarily, right? Because this is when I'm 5 or 6 years old or something. I don't know anything. I'm lucky to have any clothes on at that point. Right? So I'm running around like just clueless, but that was so popular.
I
was
know.
so popular.
I know.
Weird thing. So like I was in like a really nerdy clique in high school, very nerdy, vocal music and speech people, that
Yeah,
kind of
right.
thing. And of the 5 of us, our friends, 3 of us had Garth Brooks photos. And when I say Garth Brooks photos, we had photos of us in a black hat with
Reenactment.
the colored. I was talking to my mom about this earlier today. It was called a brush popper. A brush popper.
A brush popper.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
that?
It's just like that's that stylish shirt.
Okay.
And mine was like blue and red and white stripes,
Yeah.
vertical stripes. And so I'm trying to get that photo for us.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah,
Let's
but
get-
my 3 of my friends, and we were not country people. I mean, no, I really wasn't. But we all had that photo.
Well, you're growing up in Lone Grove. Again, this is
You-
the heart of...
Hold on.
That's true.
This is-
What was
That
the
is
name
true.
of your cow?
Which one?
Oh my gosh. There you
Yeah.
go.
My first heifer was Black Magic.
Black Magic.
Yeah, Black Magic. She was good. She was
See,
good.
we grow up in an area where it's like he has a heifer named Black Magic. I have one named Rocket,
Why
and you just have no idea.
I didn't know you had cows.
You never admit these things, Aaron. It's like your past life
you
is just
say
a secret.
admit as if I'm ashamed. No, it's just it never comes up in a discussion necessarily,
Oh, man.
unless we're apparently
I just
putting it on a podcast for a bunch of other people to see.
Jeremy's comes up all the time. Why I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does come up more often though.
I don't know.
That's because you're more of a
God, that's-
storyteller.
Yep.
You're more of a reminiscer and a storyteller than I am.
Man,
So
A
I feel like
bard
you're
of
just you're
sorts.
just a shroud over there. Like, who knows about your history? I'll have to quiz you about it sometime.
well, let's just keep it that way.
Nice.
So, but you have the photo of
The
you
photo,
dressed like
mhm.
Garth. I remember I have one in the yearbook of me and a couple other guys. I think one of them, let's see, who was it? Adam and Dr. Hughes. Shout out Dr. Hughes, chiropractor in Edmond.
Nice.
So he was another fella with me who were dressed up
As Garth?
in our cowboy attire.
Was it like
as part
Cowboy
of-
Day?
I think it was Cowboy Day was actually what it was. So that
Was that like homecoming week or something like that?
And people, when we'd have like, part of when you're dressing up for a football game or whatever, you would wear like cowboy hats,
Mhm.
when you
Yep.
wear your jersey, that sort of thing. That was something we always did on game days.
I know the genre.
Yeah. Yeah. See?
yeah, that wasn't
Y'all never did that at the homeschool basketball program?
Well, no, we didn't even see that in like our opponents most of the time. I mean, we played some small town stuff, but being in the big city boy, I just.
What did you know of country music, period, at all? Just any of it?
I didn't know. I actually,
growing
part
up
of
in Oklahoma,
part of it
not being
was
familiar with
I actually kind of like snubbed it for a long time. Even when I was like getting into
like
all
an
kinds of
elitist
different.
or something?
Oh yeah, no, like I hated. No, literally.
I don't listen to
Okay,
country music.
There was Casey and I had a particular date, okay, where I basically embraced the fact that she grew up on Garth Brooks Boulevard in Yukon and loved country, had all these memories and stuff, big Brad Paisley fan. And so I was like, I basically have to get into this and I have to be okay with it. I was, bigger into like rap or, rock or different genres and stuff.
Gotcha.
But specifically country, I really, I was very reluctant. I was very, because I was just like, I just kind of judged it. So it's a lot better than I expected.
Is there
So,
any,
I don't even know why. Like I can't even, it was just like, oh, not country. Like,
So is Casey a Garth Brooks fan?
Yeah. Oh yeah. She has much more of a history with country than I do.
What about you? Was Mackenzie? Where's Mackenzie at? Like on the Garth?
Oh, she watched most of that special with me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she watched most of the biography with me.
Y'all are like
It's
big
just like-
Stapleton fans, and
Yes, country music's not a problem for us at all. Like
Never a source
there
of
are
conflict.
plenty of artists, yes, that we love. We also share somewhat of a disdain for certain artists as well. So,
such as, do tell.
listen, I'm just if I'll have to say something audibly if a Luke Bryan song comes on. Like if there's a Luke Bryan song that comes on, I am like, oh, of course. Like he did something personally against me.
Like you feel
It's completely irrational. But that's how I have an audible response to Luke Bryan. So
I'll have to use that in the future.
listen, there's Florida Georgia Line. I mean, there's a couple that are just they've taken this genre, and it's a little different. It's a little different than it once was. We don't have the Hank Williams,
Maybe bastardized it.
Merle Haggard.
Can I say that word?
Merle Haggard, Hank Williams. I mean, even Willie Nelson. I mean, I think he's still puttering around. That dude.
Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash.
How incredible.
Oh, like wasn't Garth's first, was it Grammy that they were showing that Johnny Cash actually gave to
He was the
to him?
presenter.
Yeah.
I think he was the
or
presenter.
Country Music Award,
I think
whatever.
he was
Yeah.
the presenter on one of
of the
his
CMAs.
first- yeah.
I was like, oh man.
But there was so much, so fond memories growing up. I mean, you have several, you have none.
I do now,
See, for me, Danielle is in the same boat as Josh over here. Like she grew
Really?
up. Danielle grew up less than a couple miles from where Garth Brooks was
Yeah,
raised.
right.
She had never, until last night, she'd never heard any music by him. She didn't, like we were watching
This
the
is
documentary
astonishing
together,
to me.
and she's like, "Which one is he? Which one is he?"
Like which person?
That's astonishing to me because she's not near as judgmental as some people.
Right.
gosh.
Well, she was raised in like that. They didn't listen
She's
to
got
any
pretentious
popular.
music stuff going on all the time, all over the place.
She does. She's
But
got
she
her
seems
own.
like there's a lot of styles she would like. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Well, because of the whole homeschool thing, like they didn't listen
That's
to
what it was.
anything. It was the
That's what it was.
homeschool thing
No, that's totally that has to be what it was.
because they didn't listen to any popular music until.
And he was the popular. He was outperforming Metallica, Michael Jackson, like the
Nirvana.
the top
Well,
of the top at the time.
And
Which
even
is
with the whole
mind-blowing.
homeschool thing, you got to understand, I'm the fifth child, right? By the time the fifth child comes around, like a lot of things kind of loosen up in the household, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty common.
Right.
So, but by the time stuff
more-
starts loosening
it's
up
more
in 2000,
It's more about keeping the bodies breathing, heartbeats going, and their
and then you're like,
survival.
I don't
mode.
know if she should listen to that or not. I'm just too busy changing diapers. When stuff kind of loosened up was like 2000s, which was right after he retired to spend
Yeah,
a
because he
decade
retired
with his kids.
04 or 05, he retired. It's something I can't remember which year, but yeah,
Somewhere
I mean, it was around that time.
It was
he
early,
retired.
early 2000s. So, And so it was kind of a bad timing because like as I was getting into high school and getting more into music, whatever, like he wasn't nearly as big.
See, I even remember. So obviously we were fans growing up, but I even remember when that NBC special happened in '91. Right, I even remember that. That's just, watching it, and there I am. I'm like, I think I'm 4, and I'm just like, I don't remember much earlier than that, but for some reason I remember Garth performing, doing that concert on NBC, and
was this the live?
And being like, this is weird.
Like watching that
something
guy,
about
like,
this is strange. Oh yeah. Was crashing the guitars
oh my gosh,
together.
that was such an awesome moment.
It's so epic.
I had never seen that. I had never seen like the crashing guitars together until yesterday.
Well, I thought that was like I did not know that was a Garth thing. Like I knew like there's like lots of
I
rock,
don't know if it is
rock.
just exclusively a Garth thing.
Yeah,
but
well,
it's more of like I'll tell you what it is though. I bet that's the smashing the guitars together in a performance. I bet that's not necessarily a country thing. And that's so indicative of how he is, how he's been as an artist.
And like bringing it together.
You know who does that? I mean, like rock.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like metal.
Yeah.
Like some kind of band like that. That's who would do that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so what does he do as part of the performance? Because he's all about making it bigger and more extravagant and whatever. Let's destroy our instruments by throwing them together. Just like this huge spectacle in the middle of the stage. But I remember that. I remember that. It's just, I was 4 at the time. But
I was too young for that one. I didn't get to see that part.
Yeah, so that was certainly my earliest memory of Garth, was actually seeing that on TV. So the special, The Road I'm On, the dude is just, my goodness.
Oh yeah,
he's such a performer. And early on in this thing, you guys have a bunch of notes on this, but it's like not 10 minutes into it. I love the psychology or what motivates a person, and like, why is the person the way that they are?
Oh yeah.
And it's on his sleeve, like 3 minutes into the thing. Dude, and he's saying stuff.
Here's the quote.
And I'm just like, this is how this dude's head works, is just crazy.
So he's talking to this band who's about had years and years and years and years of
this is 2019.
Crazy successful.
This is 2019. He's prepping them for the stadium tour.
What he says is, do not ever think that what you've done is good enough. You've only got one shot at this. And I immediately stopped it. I was like, holy crap. Like, am I watching Jordan? The level of intensity, of intensity, even as he's like choreographing different like moments of like this drum hit needs to happen a little differently with a different oomph or whatever.
Yes.
And you're like, the way he just like grabs it, it's like in practice.
Yeah. Yes.
You're like, well, that dude, like,
well, these are
people,
stop. They'd been performing, I mean, from the dives and the bars and all that with him in the 80s to like the arenas and going overseas for performances and like crazy stuff. And this is what he's saying a year ago.
Right.
Talk about somebody that could coast if they wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
Dude could coast through whatever.
No, because you think about like these old bands, and you think generally, and this probably is largely true, is like you think generally like those later years are very like, they're just kind of like cashing in on what they did back in the day.
Sure.
And he's at least in spirit, like he's out on a quest to like, how do I make something that's actually new now?
Oh yeah.
Instead of just like, profiting from
the
what
past is
I've
the
done.
past.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the things he says at that when he's talking to them is the past is the past. So we're not going to rest on that. And then he goes into exactly what you said. And man, you can tell.
Oh yeah.
I mean, his performances are just nuts. This is definitely one of those that I've never seen him in concert. Right? I've never actually been to a live concert with him. But I know you mentioned to me that you know somebody who has.
Yeah, my mom. It was actually so I talked to my mom about this earlier today too, and I was just remembering like how sad I was when you went to that concert. And my dad didn't get to go. It was just my mom and some of her friends went and saw George. She's actually seen him twice. Or Garth. Saw Garth.
Oh,
and,
really? She's seen him twice?
She's seen him twice. And one time I was too little. I was like when I was 2. But whenever I was like 4, she went, and I was devastated that I didn't get to go see Garth. That was the first person I really wanted to see live in concert was Garth Brooks. And
What did she have to say? What did she have to say?
She admitted she was a terrible mother for that. No, she was just like, it's a good performance.
Yeah,
He's a good performer.
You'd love it, Jeremy.
Yeah.
You'd love it if you were there.
Yeah, you really should have gone.
No, I gave her crap about that.
Of course.
And, yeah.
Of course, you have to. Well, hopefully he's going to be doing these tours, and there's a couple.
He's going like 300 different venues or something like that. I thought
there's the stadium tour, and we'll talk about this. But then there's this other thing that he's doing that is like
drive-in
June 27th. The tickets actually go on sale on June 19th, but on June 27th he's doing what's like a live concert at like 300 drive-ins across America and Canada.
So you go to the drive-in, he won't be there, but it's like being piped in.
Correct. Yep. And it's only for those venues. It's only for those it's exclusively for those venues.
What if COVID brought back the drive-in movie theater like legit?
Oh yeah.
Man.
Dude.
Never been to one, but that would be legit.
It's like, they had these because of the Spanish flu. Now it makes sense.
So you've never been to drive-in?
No.
See, that's pretty surprising. I can't imagine that you have.
No.
Yeah. I know the answer to that.
We didn't have one in my area.
I've seen, I want to say, what's that one? Is it The Day After Tomorrow? Is it the one that's just like this apocalyptic weather destroying?
Global warming kind of.
Yes.
There's like a super
New York,
hurricane that freezes everything.
Yes.
Yes, that's The Day After Tomorrow.
Whatever his name, something Quaid.
I got a funny story for you about
Gyllenhaal.
him.
Is he the other one who's in that? I can't remember if it's Jake Gyllenhaal or who that is.
I think you may be right about that.
I think that's right. But that's one that I've seen in the theaters. And the other one, Twister.
That's ironic.
That was epic, though.
We need to go see Twister.
Epic.
We still haven't seen
scene, with the tornado, and it's going through the drive-in, and you're there at the drive-in watching the tornado rip through the drive-in. There's this real meta thing that's happening when I'm sitting there just
like, wait, it's May?
What you just say is this reality?
Somebody should build a drive-in movie theater at the Warren there.
Dude, if they actually figured out a way for the drive-in to make a comeback, man, I would think that now would be like the best time to try to do something like that. That would be epic.
Well, one of the hardest things for like families, so like what are you gonna do with your kids? You can't take them to the movie theater with you.
No, that's right.
But if you go to a drive-in, like who cares if your kid, you can talk to them, you can feed them, whatever.
Scream, they can poop, they can
everything
whatever they need to do.
All that. It's harder for a person to do that in the theater. Not impossible, but harder.
Right.
So, smooth transition. Continuing.
Smooth move.
Talking about Garth Brooks' biography special now on Netflix, The Road I'm On.
No, I loved, it's similar messages. Like whenever you come across anybody who's successful, it's like the hard work that's like drilled into him from a young age by his dad.
Oh, by his dad especially.
Oh yeah.
I loved the thing about his mom, like being a dreamer.
The dreamer.
And it was great that I love that he said that his dad didn't like squash his dreams. He was just like, Hoss, this is going to take a lot of work. Well,
and even that he didn't say anything to undermine the fact that his mom was this dreamer.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like your mom's wrong.
Like pulling
mom's
tension.
wrong. You actually got to work your tail off sort of thing. It is.
Mom's
if you're going to do that, you're going to have to work your tail off and you're going to have to be lucky and da-da-da-da-da. But it's all going to have to be like hard work.
Yeah.
And I thought that was, again, that's only a few minutes into this thing. And it's just so revealing when he's talking about this. He takes you up on like this hillside on his ranch in Tennessee.
The point.
That's just, he's just takes you on the hillside in Tennessee. This, I don't know how many acres it is that he has
huge.
there. But
it's huge.
Just this phenomenal ranch. And then he sits down, builds a fire, and he starts talking.
Yep.
And starts talking about his parents. And that was, from the get, you could tell it was just the mom was a dreamer, super supportive. Dad was the one who said, yep, and you're going to have to work your tail off to get it. Mm-hmm. But they were both saying that.
I thought it was crazy. It was interesting. You could tell he was critical of his dad.
Mm-hmm.
But he never really, I don't know. You could tell his dad was hard on him.
Yeah,
but
his dad pushed him.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. But he loved his dad.
You could tell.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, you could tell the level of respect and admiration that he had, even.
Oh yeah. Well, and it was complicated because it wasn't just as simple. Yeah, he had a lot of respect. There was even like discretion. There was the moment whenever the interviewer asked,
what was the question he asked that made him say?
basically he after his 24-hour trip to Nashville, where he like met with one of the ASCAP execs and then was like watched him like not give money to a guy who was, or not give much money.
Give him $700
to a guy who had a #1 hit right then. He was like, "This is different than I thought," and like. Now I know who the beast in Nashville that I've got to slay is. Like, yeah.
Oh, because he goes to Nashville and he says this. Right. He sees that event and he's basically telling the guy who he went to go see at that label or the agency to represent him. He's like, I make $700 a week back home playing music. And just like bars and dives. He goes, you make $700 a week playing music back at home? You need to go home.
You should probably go home.
You should probably go home.
And so that's like, when
all right.
All right. So
it was interesting because at first I was like, oh, that takes a lot of humility to like go back and just be like, nope, this isn't happening.
Oh man!
And then he like goes and hides at his parents' house.
Oh
like doesn't go back to Stillwater where everybody knows him.
So destroyed by that. Like it just.
And so someone asked, so what did your dad say? Like the interviewer asked, what did your dad say when you got home?
That's what it was.
And he like starts crying.
Yes. Which he does often.
He does. He does. This was this is probably the most intense.
He is an emotionally stirred person throughout the entire
It'd be
biography.
Just, I'd be just like that. Weeping the whole time. But so his response after, because he was like, I'm not gonna say that because and
I'm not gonna defend him.
I'm not gonna defend him, but I'm not gonna put him down.
Yes.
But what he said was, sometimes your most driving forces aren't your best memories.
That was a really interesting quote.
And his comment was like that his dad like never even knew that he did it or something like that. But that whatever happened in that moment was something that like he bottled up and channeled.
Still,
to this day.
The way he said it was like
the chip.
Still,
yeah,
like the chip on the shoulder.
Yeah,
whatever was said or how that happened. Yeah, no, that's totally the case. Yeah, no, that was.
And the way he says it, and he like keeps going into is like, everything that's a blessing is a curse.
That's right.
And everything that's a curse is a blessing.
Yes.
In the way that he says it, whatever. But like that's one of the big lessons that he took from that is like,
yes, you
thought this was like one of your worst moments, but it turned out to be one of your best.
It was so telling when he went back. He expected one of his friends, right? He has this. He's just, I think he's somewhere, maybe he rests
somewhere in Stillwater.
Yeah, like just gets noticed around town.
Stillwater gets noticed by a friend, and it was somebody who had given money to him in support of him going to Nashville and chasing his dream with music. And he sees this friend, and he was like, and the friend didn't say, well, you came back, where's my money?
Right. Right.
He says, he goes, the friend actually says, well, when you going back?
Yep.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a question in the dude's mind whether or not he should,
right?
Or like, it was just, well, when are you going to go back?
Right.
No obligation to get his money back or disappointment that way. It was like, and I'm like, yeah, that's a good friend right there.
Yeah.
I love hearing that.
That's a great question. Yeah. Well, like Trisha, Trisha Yearwood, you know what she said? She's like, if I'd have left Nashville, I don't think I would have come back.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Like that was what he said, like kicked him in the nuts.
Yeah, is that how he said it?
Yeah.
No, it was this unbelievably deflating thing. And
but it's such an interesting perspective, like to have early on. Because as a musician, it can be so tempting to think like, oh, my big break is going to come whenever I get in front of the label, who's the gatekeeper who allows me, especially back then. And basically what the approach he ended up taking was building a bigger base and then going to Nashville and building a base in Nashville before actually then, trying to push forward with the.
It's fascinating how there's no difference between somebody that level. I mean, Garth Brooks' level of success in the entertainment world, the fact that the grind and doing the work and putting in the work and trusting in the work, producing the results and what you desire in the end, that outcome, that dream that you have, that's still what you have to hang your hat on, is putting in the work and the focus and the intensity.
Yep.
And seeing that prove itself out as he goes back and he performs in these bars and these dives, and then he does it in Nashville. And it's not even just as simple as he goes back to Nashville and it works. He goes back to Nashville, gets picked up by an agent, right? And they're going to other record labels trying to sell him as this performer, right? And one of the record labels that they go to, one of 7 that just rejected him, actually attended what was a performance later that evening, the same day that they rejected him. And he just so happened to fill the spot of whoever was the number 2 time spot performing at that bar.
The dude they were coming to see, like, no shows.
He no shows. And so Garth just steps in and fills it. And the place goes crazy because he's just this, like, performer.
Oh, yeah.
Can't take your eyes off of the way that he does stuff. Like, you just get engrossed in the way that he acts. And it's like afterwards, as soon as he finishes, everybody's just going nuts. It's just like, you can tell that he's different than everyone else there as a performer. And that record label goes to his agent, who is present that evening, and says, hey, maybe we missed something in our interview process with you earlier. Let's revisit. So that was the record label that eventually signed him. But it was just, even there was the grind and the work and the effort and the focus that you have to put into it. There was even taking advantage of the opportunity. He had just been rejected by 7 labels. Instead of being like
mopey,
I'm going to go through the motions and get through this, he saw it as an opportunity, took advantage of the opportunity, and that was the thing he needed to achieve the level of success that he goes on to achieve later. It's like, that's the lessons in that are just immense.
Well, especially in his, like, up and coming, like, from, like, how he met his manager to how he gets with his record label, like, all that. It does seem like so much of Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich. Like, one of his quotes is that luck favors those who take action.
Yeah, that's a great quote.
And that's how his manager talks about it too. Because he was like, it wasn't just that we got lucky or whatever. It was that we were putting ourselves in position to get lucky. And then finally it hit.
No, that was fascinating to see that. I mean, so many lessons that a person can take just from watching that unfold and hearing his perspective as it's occurring at the time. There was that focus. He talks
in his intensity on stage. The quote that I love about this, is like,
you gonna talk about his handshake quote?
Oh, no, that's a good one too. But
he says something about a handshake that's like, for me, and this is really early on, I bet you love this, but there's something about, like, a handshake that's like, it communicates how interested a person is in being right there at that spot at that moment.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, now you can have a different perspective. And he goes, hey, amen. That's you. For me, I'll bet my life on it.
I'll bet my life on it.
He's got that real look. I bet my life on it.
Hold on. Wasn't it the record label guy who said, when I shook his hand, I knew?
No, like, that was the guy that saw him at the guy that saw him at the Bluebird bar, who was out, like, looking for people to cut, and he, like, I'm pretty sure it was that guy, and he was like,
guy, whatever,
he's like, I could see that man with 10 million people or something. I'm pretty sure it was, but there were a couple people that mentioned his handshake in specific.
Like,
I'm pretty sure it was that guy.
That's great.
Well, I thought that when you mentioned the focus and intensity, he goes, that was a lesson that I got from my dad. And that was a quote regarding the shaking a person's hand. And that was a lesson regarding just the focus and intensity that you have to bring with the moment that you're in presently.
Right.
And he talks about
just
that.
being all the way there.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. The thing I was going to point out was his commentary about when you go out on stage, like, and I deeply sympathize with this, right? But it's like, the quote was, you don't belong to yourself. When you step on stage, you belong to them. A good entertainer will do whatever the crowd is expecting of the entertainer, whether it's what the entertainer wants to do. But the greatest entertainers are the ones who get to do what they want to do, and it's exactly what that crowd came to see. And of course, it's like, it's exactly what that crowd came to see.
Like, and you think he's reading a script. Like, when he says this stuff. And I don't know. I can't tell if he's following with his eyes. I can't tell if he's following a cue card or something. Right. But what you just read, that's exactly how he said what he said in the moment in the biography. And you're just like, is he just...
What's he doing?
But he's such a performer that's how he can't help himself but talk that way.
Right.
And it's just
Well, and I'm sure he's thought about it a bit.
I think he has thought about it a bit for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was telling y'all earlier. I mean, it makes me think. We're gonna at some point we'll talk about Chris Gaines in this show, I'm sure. But it's just like it makes me wonder: is Chris Gaines the real Garth Brooks? Is he just everything's an act? And
that was a left turn for him, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
But the funny thing in the documentary was how defensive Trish was about it. And she was like, I hear people making fun of it all of Chris. People don't know that's if you just sit there and listen to that album, that's his best album, which I don't even necessarily doubt. But if you, of course, everybody's going to make fun of the fact that he came out as a different artist.
Garth even was just like he said something about how it is funny that Trish thinks that it's his best album. He said something about that was like this. Now he loved that she said that, but it was like, no, that was. I don't know if you want to jump into Chris Gaines.
Man, have you watched much or read much about the whole Chris Gaines thing?
Not a lot.
Like it started off like innocent enough. Like I went up watching a documentary about this like a month ago because somebody was like, we should blame everything that's going on in the world on Chris Gaines. I was like, who's Chris Gaines again? Like, oh, that's Garth. So like there's this interview with him. Like reporters come up to him as Chris Gaines, and he literally in the interview refers to. Like he refers to family members that do not exist.
Okay.
Like refers, like at the time it was like, I can't remember if it was his mother or something, like refers to one of them as like what they did when they died. And they were a lot, like the real person was actually like, it was like he was in the character.
Yes.
And that's why I'm like, is this really Garth Brooks?
So what's your theory on that?
Well, I mean, it's just like, they try it. It's just weird that like they try to play it off as like a normal, natural thing. That was just like about this promotion of a movie and like the movie just never panned out. And it's like, well, it actually kind of seems like there was something really, like there was actually some sort of break going on there. That or Garth Brooks is just a method actor and, he just never got to really shine. And there is some theories there about like, he really, really wanted to be an actor. He really thought he was going to get.
You can tell.
Yeah, some roles.
Like
and it's never worked
not a hard
out.
sell to me whatsoever as far as him wanting to be an actor.
But it was just the weird thing of like he's in this Chris Gaines actor. Fans come up to him and he's acting like he's Chris Gaines, like in real life, signing autographs as Chris Gaines, saying is like making up a whole background for Chris Gaines. And like there was an MTV. Oh, they did an MTV thing about him. That was like there was like they did like a little 16
like behind the music
on Chris Gaines. And this is like and in it he's got characters and family and. Didn't
he do like a Saturday Night Live performance as Chris Gaines?
I think that may be a thing too.
I want to say that's true.
Yeah.
So if so, we'll try to track that down.
So you think he like just had a loose screw there
maybe
for a
like
while?
Maybe like a what is that called? Like a fugue state or whatever? I don't know.
I don't know. I've never heard of fugue. What's a fugue state?
I have no idea.
Like you have a break in your identity and.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. The thing still sold like 2 million albums, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it reminds me of like, like you have authors sometimes that do this. Like Stephen King was like, am I only getting my stuff read because I'm Stephen King? And so he goes out and publishes as another author, No,
he basically made an album that made himself sound like Savage Garden. Nice reference. Anybody know Savage Garden? But it was the strangest thing that Garth Brooks is making this album. It's like
with long hair and mascara. I don't know if you really.
It's kind of like Jordan's baseball moment.
Yeah,
Fugue
state.
Sure. I don't
know. That's great. No, my only commentary about the whole Chris Gaines incident is, he looks exactly like Ben Stiller in Zoolander.
I just thank the Lord she didn't live to see her son as a mermaid. Merman. Merman.
Yes,
and
like
it's he's got a little bit.
I almost feel like
a little bit longer bangs.
Yeah.
Or that's just about
who modeled
the
after who on
that's
that.
Just about the difference.
Spider-Man 3. Whenever Venom comes and he has his little emo moment. That's yeah.
No, so what the funny thing to me, I guess looking back on it and again not being involved in the moment, I didn't realize that everybody knew at the time it was him. I
okay,
thought there
yeah.
was more of a like, who is this kind of thing at first, but apparently it was like all the newspapers, like everybody knew, and the speculation was, is this Garth going pop? Like, is this him making a transition into like a new music style? And,
Yes.
Wait, what?
Yeah. No, I am glad that they put that on you can try to ignore something like that or whatever and not put it in a biography, but it's kind of like this huge elephant in the room. Like what happened there?
Yeah.
And, but I'm glad they actually talked about it and brought it up because it's just kind of
but he said that was like the hardest that he's ever worked on music.
Yes. Yeah. He
Chris
said
Gaines'
that
album was like, he put everything into that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's totally different than everything that he had done before.
Sure.
You know, it's completely different. And so, but yeah, that was fascinating. Other things, I mean, the fact that this dude, they go into like, you can tell me if I'm jumping way ahead of where you guys want to note some stuff. But the fact that he was basically at the top of his game, this is funny because we talked so much about Jordan not too long ago.
Oh, yeah.
And now there's like, he's at the top of his game when he retires, right? Early 2000s, but right? 04, 05, something like that. And he retires. So he retires to spend time with his children.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it was interesting that it was actually in the context of his mom passing away too. Like, it just in terms of like how big of an impact that can have on somebody who's like reached that level of success, but then is like thinking like, wait, I got to reevaluate some things.
Yes, that was right.
Yeah.
No, it was like
the timing of that with Jordan and, I thought was interesting.
Yeah, no, that it was for that to occur the way that it did, the timing, because he's still having he's still doing these record setting sales and concerts and all that.
Right.
And for him to be like, I'm just going to step away, not like for a year or two. Like the dude left for like a decade and a half.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So the fact that he did that, and they go into pretty good detail with interviewing each of his daughters as well.
I thought that was terrific.
Which I thought I wasn't expecting that going into it.
Because like the level of rewarding of like, that did pay off.
45 minutes to an hour or something with different
out of the 3
questions.
hours,
with interviewing his daughters about their perspective on things as that was happening. I thought that was actually really neat.
Yeah, yeah, because you can tell that they all really love him and really appreciate, specifically that sacrifice. They are just kind of mind blown.
In particular, their understanding of what the sacrifice was that he did at that time.
Right.
That was I'm going to walk away right now.
Right.
And this is why, is because I want to spend more time with my kids. And so the level of appreciation they have for that, they express so much about that. His kids do.
Yeah.
So I thought that was fascinating. The fact he does that, comes back, and immediately is like questioning, are the people going to love me? Like, are they still going to?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, are they going to?
Like he's doubting whether or not everybody's going to come to the concert.
You think they're going to show up?
Yeah.
And so I do want to backtrack into this. When was the Central Park? He talks about the Central Park concert performance.
What year was that? I don't know.
Remember the year. It was before the retirement. It was
because it's before the retirement, but
he had already gone on a European tour, like a world tour.
So the Central Park thing happened before he took the break with his kiddos.
Yes.
Yeah. Huh.
Oh yeah.
I was very confused on timeline with that.
But before he retires, he does this concert in Central Park, and he talks about he's backstage. Person comes to him because he's all nervous. Like you have this.
Like he's in a hotel room.
7 football fields long.
Oh yeah,
and
7.
5 wide or something. It was the number was stupid.
Right.
Just how big the place was, and he's like, "How do we not make this look empty?"
Right, and he's in a hotel room right next to it.
Yeah,
and he doesn't want to look.
He's like refusing to look, and then somebody comes up. This is not long before the performance actually starts.
Right,
and they hand him a note. He goes, and they say, "This is the attendance.
Here's the count.
Here's the count 90 minutes ago."
And he reads it. And it's like, you're telling me there's 850,000 people here?
The guy goes, no, I'm telling you, there's 850,000 people here 90 minutes ago. So, and he talks, there's this moment of him like lifting up out of the stage. That's one of the most epic moments you can think of for a concert performance.
Oh, yeah.
And he just starts this, his eyes are cold and restless. He's in it already.
Right,
he's like already there as a performer. And he just kind of looks up, but it's just this sea of humanity in front of him that is insane.
And you can like barely see on his face, like the just like the shock.
Like doesn't phase him. It's just like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is it. And he's immediately off and running.
Yeah.
So estimated close to 1 million people.
In one place.
In one setting for a concert.
Yeah. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and he was like worried that he was going to like, it's just so stupid. Like,
will they show up and like me?
Am I going to look small compared to what Simon and Garfunkel did here?
Yeah, that's kind of how he sounded. Like, what, are you crazy? No, and then that's what happens. I thought that was
because they had 250,000 people there. And he was like, am I going to look small?
Yeah.
And then he quadrupled their turnout.
They had like Billy Joel they were interviewing. He's like, I don't remember that many New Yorkers having cowboy hats. It's just everyone
like,
there.
Where did the cowboy hats come from? Oh, yeah.
But that was awesome.
But then you find out from the Irish, whenever he came back, his first show was in Ireland.
Yes.
And on the news, they're like talking about everybody needs to get out their Stetsons. Like,
oh yeah,
it's like you've had him in storage for the last decade, waiting for Garth to come back for you.
Oh, it's just fascinating.
In Ireland.
I don't know how I have to figure out a way to see him live at this point. I mean, I just don't. That's one that I don't know if I can live without seeing him live.
You've already seen Stapleton.
I've seen Stapleton. That was awesome. That was in like the hills of Virginia, West Virginia, like outdoor arena, to where it's seats something like 15,000 people or whatever, but it was probably more like 25 that were there. But that was
a cool
awesome.
venue. Yeah,
that was incredible.
See it from pictures. That looked like a really cool place to be watching. Yeah.
No, that was an amazing setting. I can imagine it's just like you're in a stadium.
Yeah,
do a stadium show.
Well, with the new normal, we'll never see that again.
Yeah. So. Bad timing, Garth.
Is that the case?
I don't think so.
I don't know that that's the new normal, but
in our unprecedented times,
these are unprecedented times.
This is true.
I don't know if that is the new normal. So I'm sure there's plenty that will change going forward with this, but people are still going to have to do these events and make a bunch of money, bring in a bunch of revenue. Like
football will start again.
Football will start again in Oklahoma, in the beautiful state of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of Oklahoma and Garth Brooks, one thing Josh and I have talked a lot about is your interesting connection to Garth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
With real estate, the transaction that I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was an interesting thing.
Like, I still can't believe that.
Yeah. Shout out Austin and Micah. But yes, there was a transaction that I've done where it was actually a house that Garth and Trish owned. Uh-huh. So I have closing documents with their signatures on them, which is pretty unique.
That is pretty crazy.
I think that's pretty unique. So
you feel like you've done something in the world at that point.
I do.
Right?
I do. That was one of the more unusual experiences when I'm negotiating.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And he's got an attorney and all this. He's working through all this stuff or whatever.
But you're like 2 degrees of separation away from Garth freaking Brooks.
Yeah. I'm like, am I negotiating with Garth about like this heating and air conditioning unit? Like, I want this valve that we need replaced.
Didn't they have to delay the response to that because he had a concert or something?
Yeah. There was.
It's like they couldn't respond then because
there was. It had to be. There had to be. And I don't know if it delayed something or if it was just they told us that he couldn't get back in contact with us at a particular time because it was. I think he had a performance that evening or something. And I'm like, oh, okay. That
makes
sense.
About right. As weird as that is. Yeah.
So that's pretty unique experience in real estate. Yeah. So yeah,
that's our highest profile sale.
That's a high profile
one of. Yeah.
That's a high profile one. I showed who was it? Kyle Singler. I showed his he's got a place he's trying to sell not too far from Class and Curve right now. I showed that the other day.
Is he still in the NBA?
I don't even know if he's in the league at this point. So best wishes.
Is anybody
Kyle.
In the league right now?
Best wishes, Kyle. I'm going to try to bring you a buyer. So
work it, Aaron.
Here's helping.
I'm going to try.
I'm going to try to pay one of those players $500,000.
Oh my goodness. Okay, what other notes did you guys have regarding just
Man, the competing. Like, so literally, as a kid, they traded off like competing for their family's attention. Like they would have basically an open mic in their living room frequently.
Oh yeah.
And it's like everybody was trying to be the most entertaining.
I didn't know how much his mom sacrificed regarding a music career.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah. That was
Like-
pretty revealing.
Yep. No, and then like how she was basically like fulfilling her career dreams like through him.
Yeah.
And-
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but like when he was talking about the like country music, like basically when he rose to the top of country, it became about competing for country music, and it was all
Against
about
the other genres even.
yeah. But just like the level of how he viewed it as competition, and like like when you think performance, like high performance, like high execution,
It's always competition.
delivering,
Yep.
to win. And no, the thing was like when Ropin' in the Wind debuted at number 1.
Yeah.
It was something like 46 weeks that it was hovering near the top. I think that was that one.
Yes.
And it was directly competing with Michael Jackson, U2, and Metallica with their
Yes.
releases, and would
Yep.
like trade off going back and forth. His would stay, theirs would show up and then start dropping down. His
That was
would
wild.
stay and then take it back. And you're like, what?
And the staying power that shows for that to occur is
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought was really interesting in the show, and I think we've kind of talked about this to some degree, Aaron, we've talked about like the songwriting aspect. Like we've talked about Chris Stapleton and the different people he's written for. And,
Oh, totally.
you know, there's that aspect about it. But it was really interesting because you got Garth Brooks, who's like this solo artist, best-selling solo artist of all time. But there is, and he even talks about how his dad instilled teamwork in him. And like, he said, he didn't care if you were playing tiddlywinks or whatever.
Uh-huh.
You're going to be on a team. There is like this team aspect behind Garth. It's like even his best songs, he's like, this guy, I remember when I met this guy and I told him I'm going to cut that song one day. I'm going to cut the dance.
Yep.
And then also like the song that If Tomorrow Never Comes, like he talks about whenever he met that guy. And then also just like how integral the different performers, like he's got his best friend, the guy that's his guitarist, and then his drummer. I mean, they're very much for a guy whose name is on, even his little network or whatever, he's a team player. That's really cool.
No, and you can tell it was like everybody they had their own part and their own role, and if anybody doesn't meet this expectation level of performance, then it's going to have an impact that's negative on everybody else.
Yeah.
And so, but to put it positively, it was just like, we're only going to achieve this together.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're only going to achieve excellence together. You're limited what you can actually accomplish in as much as you're just alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even like them, like living in a house with 7 adults,
Yeah, that's right.
like married couples,
that's right.
dogs, infants, all in like one rental house.
Just
When they go
making
to
it.
Nashville.
Just making
Yeah, I
it when
think
he's
it was
performing
like
in Nashville.
9 people, a cat and a dog
Yeah.
in a 3-bed, 2-bath, like 900 square foot house or
That's
something.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
And it was it was a big life changer when he got paid $300 a month.
Oh yeah.
So that him and his wife could go rent a house and then
right.
share it with their
Be in their own
guitarist.
place. And,
With their guitarist.
Like,
Yes.
he would still be the roommate. Yeah.
oh, man.
Yeah, but I thought it was really interesting. He was apparently there was a time when he was talking to John F. Kennedy Jr. and obviously a guy who's lived in his dad's shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And he was asking him, like, for the benefit of his own kids, he was like, what would you tell my kids, like the children of someone who's been successful? Like, what advice would you give to them?
Yeah.
And his response was from JFK Jr., tell them that no matter how hard they work, people will always tell them it was given to them. But never let that deter them from getting it done. He was like, just deal with it now, because that's going to be a big thing they have to deal with. But like, don't let that stop them from going and doing something.
Right.
And it's really interesting. I was actually watching a Gary Vee clip where he's talking to it's like a room of like 20 or 30 people. And it almost looks like a kind of, he's like trying to like inspire this, it seems like a lower income or like poorer kind of like community action type, like let's, start working hard and, put ourselves together kind of thing.
Right.
And Gary Vee gets into talking about basically a really similar thing. He's like, I know y'all don't want to hear this, but your like situation, like your poverty, your disadvantage that you're looking at right now, that's your greatest gift, because that's what puts the chip on your shoulder and makes you decide to go actually work hard and go create. And nobody will tell you this, but like people who are privileged, like I just talked to a guy who, his parents gave him $10 million, and he's like, I spent 4 hours with him, and he's like in anguish because no matter what he does, like everyone will always just say it was given to you. And that same thing. And people think like being privileged in those ways, fixes all your problems. But it's like you either get soft and lazy a lot of times, or
blame the,
it's like, sure, you're successful because of your circumstances.
Right.
And it's like with these people, it's like, no. Everyone has to make their own individual choice about whether or not they are going to overcome their particular circumstances.
Correct. Yeah.
And or whether or not they're going to work and perform and execute at a high level. And you either end up soft and lazy and, trust fund baby, whatever, like everything you think of negatively with that.
Sure.
Or you figure it out. So,
well, like it's crazy. That makes me think like there's, I don't remember if it's Jordan Peterson or who it was talking about this, but like there's this area in Silicon Valley or like around Silicon Valley, like where the suicide rate is like crazy among kids that are like teenagers that are like their families are like uber rich and wealthy and affluent. But there's just like this, like there's a lot of debate on like, why is the suicide rate so high there? Some of it, like some people would say it's because they have high standards for like, they got to go to, Ivy League schools, got to go do something, accomplish something big. But some of it is just like when you're born with the spoon in your mouth, silver spoon in your mouth, there's just like there isn't a hunger. There's not, you've got everything that you could ever want. There's no meaning. So.
Well, even in the meaning found in, overcoming circumstance, or even the meaning found in, I guess
the struggle,
it's the struggle. It's the, against all odds.
Yeah.
I'm going to overcome this. Like the meaning that people find in that. It's like, well, where do you go? Where do you go to get that?
Yeah. If you don't if you have everything,
if you've got, this set up in such a way where I don't have to worry about what I have to live for next, however long into the future. It's like, it's taken care of for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting because like you want to provide for your kids and you want to create wealth that, is generational and that they, pass on to their kids and, that they learn from that and build on the platform that you create for them kind of thing.
Right.
But it's, the question of like, how do you actually teach that hard work? How do you teach that discipline? Like that's one of the biggest, for anyone who wants to leave something for their kid, like that's one of the biggest challenges. I loved the story whenever they took a summer and he basically decided to make them build. Like,
see, why
what was it? A 56.
What's fascinating about this? This bridge. I'm just like, so
a 56-foot compression bridge that his three daughters built by hand.
Ron Swanson had the hardest time with the idea of leaving his children or somebody else, like leaving them a bunch of money, right? He had accumulated.
Right.
What was this quote? It was something about like, I don't know how much money I have, but I know how much it weighs.
I know the weight.
I know the weight. But he didn't want to leave money because he didn't want them to be like these trust fund babies, sort of, that they just don't work hard for what they have. Why didn't Ron come up with building a bridge?
Build him a bridge.
Yeah, that was Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks coming up with a 56-foot bridge that they were going to build that took them several months.
Oh yeah. And the kids got the message, right? Because like they're having at the dinner that they're having like on the bridge, right, to celebrate the successful summer or whatever. Like they have a little picnic. They're just kind of like sitting there, and I don't know, they brought something up, and he was like, I don't know. You think you guys can handle that? And they were like, Dad, we just built a bridge.
Oh, yeah.
We did that. We can do anything. Let's take it on.
Yeah, and that was like a story. He said that was something like with other challenges in life, like whenever like you think you can handle that thing, like that was a firm anchor.
Oh, yeah.
Point for them. He talks about
it's a good looking bridge too.
Yeah.
It's good. I'd be proud of that.
It was great.
Because it's funny because it's not the same dramatic whatever, but I remember a particular moment with Charity, like my daughter, when she was like trying to climb this thing at a trampoline park and like just telling me like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't do it. And I'm like, I'm not going to make you do it, but you can absolutely do it. I am going to make you like try a little bit harder right here, right now, because you're like telling me that you can't do it.
Just the quitting and giving.
And when she finally did it,
yes,
it was like this, I can do it, kind of thing. And like that kind of confidence and encouragement or whatever that I think she's kind of bottled. And that's, that you look at those moments of like making them overcome a really challenging thing.
Right.
And it's like, you see that then gets applied and applied and applied and applied. Like they continue to push themselves maybe a little bit farther than they think they can.
It was great to see that he did that and gave them a very concrete example.
Yeah.
And his kids knew it.
Yep.
They're very aware of it. They can comprehend it at the time. They can reflect on it years later.
Oh, yeah.
And the way he said it was, nobody really got seriously hurt or anything like that, but they've got scars.
Like they have scars to this day that they can look at.
And every time that they see those scars, they think about that bridge.
Yeah.
And it was again, one of these dramatic moments for Garth when he's talking about something. But to see that there's all sorts of moments where you can do something that's easier in the way that you're like raising your kids or something. Mm-hmm. And there's just like something you can do for them. Yep. It's just faster. For me to do a thing than this 4-year-old. Like, I can just get it done faster. I'm not going to have to stand here for another 10 to 15 minutes. But to find some way for it to work so that they learn how to do it themselves and take the personal responsibility for them to do it themselves. To see him have a concrete example like that they reflect on, that they comprehend and understand. It's like, kids do know that. Yeah. They do know that that's what's happening in the moment. Yeah. They can remember that. It can seem mundane and as if it's like a smaller thing.
Such a huge deal to them.
And it can sound as dumb as building a bridge.
Yep.
But it can be one of these moments that is for personal responsibility and just hard work.
Oh, yeah. For PAX, it was getting my 3-year-old a screwdriver and a bunch of screws and some wood that he could fit it together with.
Right.
And like when he got that done, he was like, I can screw things. You're just like so excited.
Well, I'd be remiss if we didn't point out when he went on his first date with his first wife. What's her name?
Sandy.
Uh-huh. Yep. When Garth went on his first date with his first wife, Sandy, one of the things that he did, his idea was, well, why don't we just like play some music and sing some music together?
Just sit around, sing some music together.
I'll play some music on my guitar and we'll sing some music together. And it reminded me of a little different, the circumstance in which,
right. I mean,
with your courtship with Casey. Nonetheless, what exactly happened with you playing? This was this a George Strait
George
song?
Strait, yeah. Check no, yes or no. This was so as after I basically had to come to terms with and embrace country music as a whole. This was probably about a year and a half into that, and being like, okay, this is maybe I am not going to pick this, but it's a reality that I can't avoid anymore. And so
say it so begrudgingly. It's entirely unfair.
But what happened? Casey was studying abroad in Spain. Out of the 13 months we were engaged, she was there for like 11 of them. So it was terrible.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know how that happened, but.
And we all got sucked into that reality.
I was pretty mopey the whole time, right?
Yeah, you did pretty good.
You handled it pretty well, but it was.
There was a lot of Skype. It was kind of early days of a lot of the video chatting kind of stuff. But we had some good Skype. We got through it. But one of the things that she did, she sent me on a video scavenger hunt.
Okay.
Kind of like challenge. And so there were a bunch of specific things that I had to go capture on video. One of them was singing a country song. And that was the moment that we got to share together. It was funny because we pulled up this video and I didn't remember that you were there during that.
I was there. Nope.
And I forgot how much we sang along at the end too. So this is
there are just some songs I feel compelled to sing along with.
Right.
It's just listen. there's just going to be some songs where I'm just like,
it's like no matter the context, like I can't not sing.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, no, but this is the George Strait check, yes or no.
Do you love me? Do you want to be my friend? If you do.
Boy, there was a high degree of paleness, it seems, but
the upper arms, you know, like
is that a cutoff flannel? Like, do you literally have your sleeves cut off?
It is a cutoff flannel. I can't explain it necessarily.
Almost looks like you're ready to go chop down some trees with an axe.
I was trying to find this picture because for some reason I was taking a picture where I was like holding an axe with like this flannel shirt, like lumberjack thing, and that was the only thing that someone in our house had, or what, like that was close to it. So I threw it on. It was probably Cameron's or something, and that happened.
Great work. Yeah, great work. She was obviously impressed.
I feel like I've got the kind of like growly, intense, thing, kind of like.
Just don't look at me when you say it that way.
Oh my gosh, it's kind of like
your draw was pretty good. You had a pretty good draw in there.
Thank you. It was affected. It was. I've worked hard on that over the years.
Check yes or no.
Check yes or no. No, but yeah, we. It definitely happened on a few dates. When I played some music, and when I proposed, I ended up. The only way that made sense to me.
Part of your proposal was a guitar performance.
It was I wrote her a song, so yeah.
Right.
It's good fun.
Okay, so see, even though you have this sort of. Not familiar with country music and somewhat seem to tolerate it seems, which is kind of sad. There's still this relatability with Garth regarding playing music for the one you love.
It weaved its way into your life.
Into my soul.
And in that way, that's a microcosm of why Garth is so excellent, right? He is relatable
to everyone. He
is the everyman.
He will reach you.
Is Garth not the everyman?
The everyman?
He is. So, thank you for joining us again on the Maven Show.
It's been good.
For Aaron Hoffman, Josh Malone, Jeremy Brown.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, y'all.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching The Maven Show. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for all the latest clips and episodes. Also, comment below with what you thought was the most interesting or helpful from this video. And if you want to help us out, please like and share our posts on social media. Thanks so much.